Some may think designers only work with clients who kind of share their aesthetic, or vice versa. Clients only seek out designers who have a specific aesthetic. And I think that is very true. Like as a designer, as you get more experience, you start to develop an aesthetic over time by working with different clients, be it using bold patterns or very kind of minimalist style, or a specific type of furniture, or a built-in kind of environment, etc. But designers who are newer to the scene really need to kind of take on a variety of clients just to pay the bills. Unless you don't want to eat, and that's cool. I mean, you don't have to, but you might, I don't know, starve to death. So, and that's what this project was really all about. So I had an initial consult with a potential client, went to their house to meet them, to kind of hear what they were looking to do, and get a stronger sense of kind of the style that might appeal to them. And what I saw was a bed that looked kind of like this. It wasn't the exact bed, but it was a bit similar. A dining room set that looked like this. They had a lounge in the TV room that looked like this, a lamp that looked like this, and then they also had a set of Chesterfield sofas and a chair that looked like this, that were really the only thing they wanted to keep and take with them. Like a newer designer on the field who is really into kind of mid-century modern, or the Bauhaus movement, might kind of run for the hills and say, this isn't really a good fit, like this isn't for me. But that's not very brave, is it? Like, I think it's really good to take on clients that don't necessarily share your aesthetic, but obviously are coming to you because they want guidance. You get to show them different things that they may never have even considered. A lot of it they will hate, but some of it they might say, you know what, that actually works, and I would have never picked that out, but I really like it. And it's good because they'll push your boundaries and really force you to focus on the fundamentals of design. So line and shape and color and form, instead of just a specific style or a specific furniture designer that you might really love. So this episode looks at a recent project that pushed my boundaries, and I was able to push the client's boundaries to achieve a pretty bold result. Ready? Let's go. So after signing on with me, I really wanted to show them a look that I thought that they would love, which is really kind of a luxy, bold kind of look. So using mirror, glass, brass, chrome, large, oversized kind of lampshades or items, nice, large-scale artwork, big, bold wallpaper, just to show them how you can go bold in an environment and also have it be well balanced. So specifically in the living area, looking at how we can start with these brown leather Chesterfields and build the look around that, while using kind of these mood boards as kind of an aspirational target, so to speak. I wanted to understand whether they want to go more warm, so using like reds and oranges and beige tones, and kind of going in that direction, because as we've heard, gray is on the way out and beige is on the way in, which I think is a ridiculous statement, because I mean, these are like the foundational colors for any color palette, right? So if you're gonna go cool, then you're gonna go more gray, and if you're gonna go warm, you're gonna go more beige. It has nothing necessarily to do with what's hot. It's all about you and kind of what you want, right? So anyway, one direction was more warm, and then the other direction was more cool. So using more grays and cool kind of blue colors, and also darker timbers. And without even waiting, I mean, they were like, we really like kind of the cooler look. And I'm like, awesome, so we'll go with that. Backing up and looking at kind of the floor plan of the house, walking into the house, you have an entry, and then you immediately have a study on your left that has no door. So it has a big open doorway and a study. So, which can be a bit frightful for some homeowners, because they know, oh my god, my study is a wreck like all the time. Like, I don't want that to be the first impression. So it was important to make it look nice, organizing it in a way and having some furnishings there that start to tell the story and set the tone for your style. Walking through the entry, it opened up into kind of a a large kitchen, living, dining space where the living area was a bit cordoned off by a dividing wall that had entries on both sides and a large kind of open window of sorts and a ledge. And then the dining room was close to the back patio, and the kitchen was kind of in between that. So that was kind of one-ish space. Then the master was kind of off the dining room in the back, which was a bit small, and had 2 entries to a walk-in wardrobe. And it was a bit funny because the bed, that wall would only support basically a queen size bed, which for these clients was kind of a deal breaker, so we needed a solution around that. On the other side of the dining room was a really large space. It was about 11.5 meter by 5 meters. And the initial thought was they wanted to divide it up so that they had kind of a play area for their 2 daughters, and then they also had a home theater. And sorry, but those ideas are just 2 clashing ideas, right? You don't necessarily want to have your kids playing and being a bit rambunctious next to kind of where you're trying to watch, you know, Star Wars for the 30th time and really enjoy yourself, right? So what could we do to kind of solve for that? On the other side of the house, so down a little series of hallways, were the girls' rooms. So one in the front of the house, one basically butting up against the master suite, with the laundry and their kind of shared bathroom, and also another 4th bedroom rather. The wife really wanted kind of a place where she could get ready in the morning. So a place where she could put on her makeup, have, you know, some of more of her clothes in there as more of like a walk-in wardrobe, and be able to kind of just have her own space, because the master was a bit small. But I thought, why not let's just make this whole side of the house basically the kids' side of the house. So this 4th bedroom can be their play area. We can put kind of a TV in here and a little pull-out sofa for sleepovers, and then in the big space we can have half be a home theater, and then let's just create basically a guest room or even a guest suite. All she has to do is basically walk through the dining room, and then she can get ready and do her thing, and then they have another whole bedroom that they can have for guests or what have you. So in the background, we were kind of kicking ideas around, and I was coming up with some thoughts and providing some drawings that they could give to their builder and get some quotes on potential scenarios. But going back to the decor scheme and into the living area, so I brought in kind of a huge mirror that could go above the love seat to bring in some light, so to reflect some light, and also a bit of bling. Since Chesterfields do have high arms, I wanted to find kind of a side table for that sofa that was also high enough to make it pretty natural to kind of reach over and drop a drink. An opportunity to also have a table lamp for another kind of ambient light source. The coffee table going with kind of a glass top to also kind of, you know, further that kind of luxy look, with a nice kind of rug that had the tones of the room. So artwork wise, it's always kind of interesting / a big challenge to kind of land on pieces of art that clients really love. But in kind of the different pieces that I was sharing with them, I found that they were gravitating towards either like abstract pieces with different colors, or more botanical kind of pieces. So, meanwhile, the TV cabinet had, well, it didn't really have any, it was just old. It was an older kind of laminate, and it didn't look like really good quality. It had kind of a bullnose on the front. I just wanted to have nice kind of clean lines, and go kind of darker. So we ripped that out, and had that replaced with kind of like basically a blackish kind of matte timber finish, by like a Polytec. And then I also wanted to introduce a floating shelf above the TV, to drop, you know, some picture frames or whatever to add more interest and to fill that space. And that was an important choice because also in the kitchen, they didn't want to kind of rip out all their cabinets. And they had basically a high gloss beige cabinetry, which is a bit odd, like high gloss beige. It's really kind of weird. But yeah, so that's what they had. So I suggested they did have some cabinets kind of above, like near their hood, as well as above the fridge. I suggested they swap those out for the same kind of darker timber. That would add a nice kind of contrast within the kitchen. So going from that kind of darker timber to the high gloss beige, and then pulling the light gray through that space to tie that whole kind of space in together. Looking at the dining room, it was actually a pretty nice size. So big enough for kind of an extra wide table, and then also still having space for a buffet on the one wall, which was great. So I knew she wanted kind of a larger table with a larger than typical, 90 centimeter width, maybe going for like 1.1 meter, even 1.2, which is actually what we landed on, and then having a buffet on the one wall for some additional storage, and then a lamp on top to illuminate, have some ambient light. Look-wise, any client that you walk into their house and they have a bright red couch, like, these people are not afraid of color, right? So they want a bold moment. They're just not really sure kind of where to put it, how to do it, and kind of how to balance it out and make it really work. So I really wanted to do a big mural on that back wall, and I suggested a few different options. And when I showed this one, they kind of got quiet, and in a really good way. Like, you're walking past a donut shop and you're like kind of, your eyes are kind of looking at it, and you have this kind of look of, I really want that. And I was like, what do you think of this one? And they're like, we like it. So awesome. So we went with that, which is really good. So walking into the house initially, I did notice they had a Last Supper painting. So going through the process, I thought this was a good opportunity to update that, to fit the scheme a bit better. So knowing that we had this really bold watercolor with a lot of color on one wall, I really wanted the new Last Supper to be much more modest, a bit more monotone, and not too bold, because the wallpaper was really the hero, and the Last Supper could kind of play a supporting role. So I thought those tones really kind of balance with the beiges in the adjacent space, and the kind of antique-y looking frame added a bit of interest to other kind of really contemporary pieces. And glass tables can be a really good choice because A, they're probably going to be less expensive than a timber option, or even a marble option. You can see right through it to the rug below, makes the space feel a bit more airy. And I like this one as well because of the kind of black geometric kind of contemporary stand, which kind of pushed the limits of the scheme. So balancing with these tufted kind of velvet armchairs, or dining room chairs rather. And then the one day that we could actually go to the shop and do some shopping together, the husband totally fell in love with this bench, which I wasn't necessarily including any chrome into the environment. So that kind of put a spanner in the works, but what I did was just kind of swapped out the table lamp that I was thinking about for one that had more of a silver chrome base so that those two items could talk to one another. The counter height stools were also a piece that took me a bit of time to find the right ones. So she had a specific style in mind, so pitching a more kind of modern kind of style pushed her boundaries a bit, but I really like these because they were different from the dining chairs, also in a different color that kind of related to the wallpaper, so almost kind of fun, just kind of extending the color palette in that way, and having a simpler design. In the office, using a beige on two of the walls and then going dark on the other two, so walking in the space it feels more warm, and then as you walk into the kitchen you also have that kind of warm space. Whereas in the master bedroom, I had initially was exploring an option that was more kind of blue, like a cool kind of blue, and doing this really kind of bold flock wallpaper on the bed head, with the same kind of blue tone and kind of a shimmery kind of silver background. And in searching for a bed, the client wasn't too thrilled about the options I was coming up with, which were more like kind of simple kind of Art Deco, linear tufted velvet bed heads. She wanted something with a bit more bling. So I left her to her own devices and she came back with this one, which I thought, hey, it has some nice clean lines, and it has the tufting, which we're kind of repeating in from the Chesterfields, but it was only available in a beige linen. So I basically just shifted the palette to be more beige centric, did a pearl kind of effect paint on all the walls, which was pretty much in a gold tone, and then used the same brand and style of paper but in a different colorway, which wound up looking fantastic. And then pairing that with navies, so bringing in some blue tones in the rug to provide that pop of color, and also in the bedding as well. Structure-wise, as you can tell, the easiest solution was to block off one of the doors, and this gave just enough space to have their king-size bed and then 2 side tables, which we had to kind of mix match in order to make them fit, but I think that just added to the scheme anyway. All right, kids' rooms. So I wanted to kind of do a bit of a little mini interview with the kids just to get to know them a bit more, to understand kind of what they liked and what was important to them and kind of who they were, so that I could kind of come up with a scheme that would resonate with them, that they really liked, right? So the older one, she loved hip hop music, New York City, wanted to grow up to be an actress, and her favorite color was purple. The younger one, so she loved pink, wanted to grow up to be a princess, and loved to dance and sing, which I knew, being in the house a few times, she loved to dance and sing a lot. So for the older daughter, I wanted the scheme to be a bit lofty, so having, not lofty as in lofty, but lofty as in like New York City loft, right? So bringing in more like modern furniture instead of more contemporary furniture, bringing the purple in, but also these kids were very energetic, right? So I wanted to bring a bit of dynamism into the space, so using basically a masking trick to mask off basically a big triangle on the wall or a stripe on the wall, to have 2 different colors of purple to bring some energy into the space, and then also pairing that with some more vibrant kind of picture frames and pictures. The older daughter actually didn't like the purple walls, so she just wanted to go with the gray walls that were in the rest of the house, and that's cool, but just keeping with the artwork, so bringing color in through there and also color in through kind of the bedding as well. And having a bit of a desk space at the end of the desk, so the rooms were a bit tight, but at the end there was enough space to have a smallish kind of desk where she could do her homework, and then they wound up putting some shelving above, which worked to kind of give her a bit more storage. And then in the younger daughter's space, doing the same kind of thing, but in a light pink and then a dark pink or almost a red, and then pairing that with, instead of going more typical girls' room with like pink, 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 and white, but introducing like blues and some, you know, bolder, kind of brighter colors as well, to bring some more interest into the space, which I thought was fun. For their shared room, I really wanted this to kind of be, you know, the 2 daughters kind of coming together, so by bringing in both the purple and the pink into one space and then having some more kind of fun artwork or prints on the walls would be cool. A little pull out for sleepovers, and then kind of a lighter weight chair that they could move around in case they wanted to either all watch TV or just get it out of the room all together and have a little dance party or what have you. A rug that kind of would work in the space. We actually used kind of their old TV stand in the space, which worked out nicely too, so that's good. Okay, whew. Next, onto the rumpus room. So this was the pièce de résistance of the entire space, so this was a lot of fun for me to do. So first off was just the whole kind of functional challenge of getting the floor plan right. So in creating different schemes and different scenarios, they determined that, you know what, we're just going to go with kind of no ensuite, but let's do basically a guest room space or a gymnasium, and then a home theater. Because in the exploration, we were thinking, okay, maybe it's a guest room with an ensuite or a guest room with storage, but that would shrink the home theater quite substantially, and they really wanted to have, of course, more space for the home theater, which is cool. So by pushing that out and then making the other space a bit smaller, it was still a good-sized room, and then giving a little closet in the weird kind of space where the pillar was. So that worked out nicely. But in Australia, so there is a code where for any bedroom, the window needs to be a specific size, which the window wasn't big enough. So that would have been more investment to kind of get that window taken out and put a bigger window in. So instead of worrying about doing that, they basically just left the space open. But in the last iteration, they decided to kind of make this space a gym. So we went with more of a commercial carpet for the space, and then stopped it before the little kind of hallway. So when you walk in from the dining room, you're on the same carpet that goes into the home theater. And in doing some thinking, I suggested initially doing kind of a timber room divider. So the pretty simple design. So basically slats of timber that were turned at an angle. So if you're in the dining room, you're just looking at slats of wood. Apparently there was a chippy shortage. Everybody hates a chippy shortage. And they weren't going to be able to get to it until like, I don't know, 2024. So I figured as an option, let's just do a curtain. So do an S-fold curtain that would drop from the ceiling all the way to the floor in a nice kind of lightweight sheer in a neutral tone that would tie in with the scheme, which actually worked out pretty nicely. So they can shut it all the way, they can leave it hanging open based on what they have going on in the house. But for the home theater, so I mean, movies for me have always been an escape, and I think anybody would kind of say that. Like, if what do you think of film or movies? And they're like, well, it's an escape for me, or it's something that I enjoy, delving into another kind of world or universe and not really thinking about my own reality. So I wanted to kind of have the design or kind of the aesthetic of the space be a bit different than the rest of the house, but also have the same, I guess, volume, right? So definitely doing kind of a wallpapered focal wall behind the TV to kind of pull you as you kind of come into the space. I showed them a few different kind of wallpaper options with one recommendation which they kind of wound up going for. The other options were still kind of delivering on a bigger, bolder moment, but being a bit more toned down in the color palette and the look feel. But I recommended this wallpaper because it's big and bold. The color palette, the sepia kind of color palette, is dark and it doesn't stand out too much. So this paper was also available in like a green or blue colorway, which was much more bold. And I wanted kind of the wallpaper to basically almost disappear, or try to disappear anyway, once kind of the lights were dimmed and the movie was on. Pairing that with a couple pendants hanging in the corner that were these kind of beaded chandelier to kind of tie into this kind of almost like jungle theme. And then found this really amazing bar that looked like a giant trunk to add some more interest and texture into the space. The entertainment unit was important to me because, of course, the TV was this ginormous kind of thing. One of my pet peeves is seeing a ginormous TV on this little teeny tiny entertainment unit, because the unit is dwarfed by the technology, and I feel that kind of the furniture that you have in the space should really kind of be the hero and support kind of the technology that you have in the environment. Also thinking about the overall functional design of the room. So initially we were thinking about adding a step in to give kind of the back row a bit more kind of sight line over the couch in front of them. But in thinking about that, it was like, okay, I thought making the space a bit more versatile than that would be good. So it would be nice to be able to, at times, rearrange the furniture, have it be much more conversational, open up the patio doors and kind of have it be an extension of the patio, have a big birthday party, and just give more room for guests to kind of mill around and kind of hang out. But that makes it important on where you hang the TV. So I think common knowledge and kind of the thing that most people will kind of recommend for you is put the TV basically, I don't know, so it's about, 50 centimeters or 60 centimeters off the ground. But the simplest way to do this, sit in the back sofa and make sure that as they're kind of hanging it, that you can see the bottom of the TV above kind of wherever the head is that's going to be in front of you. For the back of the theater, putting a buffet in the back to have a bit more storage, and also a place to drop plates or drinks or popcorn bowls, or even to put out a spread of movie snacks is important. So you have that kind of space for people to kind of grab stuff or put stuff down. I did want to find them a piece of Aboriginal art. Aboriginal art is just beautiful, and if you know the backstory of the piece that you're buying, then it does make it that much more personal to you, because it does kind of tell a story from the artist's point of view. But we did, for the sake of cost, we wound up finding one just off Temple and Webster that was in that style, and also had brought in some more pinks and stuff into the space. So the theater was basically, we had two living areas. So there was a living area in the back with a King Living Jasper lounge, and then a fun kind of rose-colored ottoman to kind of bring some color into the space. And then in the front, we used a recliner from Koala Living in a lighter fabric, and then had 2 end tables on for that. And then I wanted to have another chair basically in the corner with an ottoman. So this chair from Koala Living just kind of brought some more bling into the environment. So to bring in a tufted piece similar to what was in the dining room was cool. And then the ottoman from Brosa just matched it perfectly, which is great. Last but not least was the outside of the home. As you kind of redo your interior, you might kind of then walk outside and look at your house and be like, that doesn't really match that well. Which it didn't, because they went with more of a cool color palette, and then the outside of the house was much more warm. I suggested let's paint the house more of a gray color, and then use kind of a dark kind of charcoal or black for the window sashes, as well as kind of the front porch and the garage door, to give it a bit more contrast. And that gave the house kind of a more kind of sophisticated, formal look and prominence from the street. So all in all, this was a fun project, getting to help a family kind of find their style, kind of refine their style, and come out with an amazing kind of result, with a lot of bold moments, and also a nice kind of serene environment for the whole family to kind of hang out, have people over, and enjoy. So be sure to give me a like, a comment, and subscribe for more. So I have several clients kind of running simultaneous now, so I'm not really sure who's going to be done first, but it's either going to be a restaurant in St. Kilda, or perhaps a couple houses that have some bathrooms kind of that are being flipped, that each one is going to have a pretty different result, among others. So stay tuned, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time. Cheers, later, bye.